there's a few comments which are, what if the missing parts in the narrative are felt? There are some behaviors in the family or some symptoms, but there's no evidence. How? There's no evidence, and
No.
you can't get to it through the transference.
Yeah, but of course you build a fiction.
You build a fiction.
Yeah, you know, fairy tales, mythology are very useful because you, of course, if you cannot get to the facts, and very often you cannot, but they approach truth. I am very, there is a law which I like. In Greek tragedies, you were the writers, Sophocles, Aeschylus, repeat, they were forbidden to talk about actual facts, to represent incest, adoption, bastardies, and so on, as a historical fact occurring now. They could not speak about actuality. So they used myth. Those faraway families where there were awful people, eat each other, eat the children of, and so on. And the fact that was put on stage in a mythological way was more efficient. Because if they had say, oh, so and so had an incest, you know, yesterday or in the actuality, the spectators would fight together and there would be traumatic revivals. They would trigger traumatic revivals. And so it's I very often tell stories. I like that. Mm-hmm. And I read a wonderful book that a patient sent me, because they send me books. They know I love them. Indian, le dieu des petits riens, the god of little things. Or you know that?
Yes, Arundhati Roy.
Yes.
Yes.
And I was enthusiastic about that book, and I'm ready to tell some parts to one patient to approach his story.
Yes.
And that's very useful, and they love when I tell story.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, storytelling is one of the healing techniques since antiquity.
Yes, absolutely. We use stories a lot in family therapy as well. And I think nowadays I use a lot of contemporary stories, television programs. I use them in my presentations and teaching, but I also use them in my family therapy. So The Crown, for example, you know, and would almost sort of invite family members to take one section and talk about it. And sometimes families quite spontaneously bring stories as well, bring stories from cultural stories, bring stories from politics, bring stories from literature, and then we sort of work with the story, but at some point reflect on what it means to each of them, and you know, how their story, their family story might be similar, might be different, but to begin with, yes, you take the story and you work with it. And
in the Greek theater, the only one allowed to speak about current situations were the comics. Mm-hmm. You could laugh at it, like Aristophanes.
Yes.
Aristophanes could speak about the everyday life, because then you laugh. And it's another kind of catharsis. You know, you are not traumatized.
Yes.
You can laugh. And laughter is very important also. I did not mention it. It's not only always tragic and, you know, there are moments of laughter with details which bring you back to everyday life.